tool, it is the observability tool to get insights about your usage and health of your Prisma Access infrastructure. So you're going to be able to see all the consumption of your mobile users, the number of users who are connected to Prisma Access, your bandwidth usage for remote networks, and service connections. Service connections, as you know, are your means to access your private applications and services hosted in your data center or HQ. So all of these are available to you. You're going to be able to see the Prisma Access locations, their status, their connectivity health to Cortex Data Lake, which is where all our log data is available and sent from all our cloud services. Additionally, we provide you the consumption and usage of your licenses. So how many of your users have connected to Prisma Access or have logged into Prisma Access over the past 90 days, which makes up how your mobile user license is constructed. So you're able to view your MU license consumption, your RN license consumption in terms of the bandwidth that you're using, as well as how many service connections you have. With that, let me just shift gears and talk about our releases. As you know, we are a cloud service, so we do monthly or roughly every 4 to 6 weeks releases, unless, of course, it is a time period where we cannot do any release, which was from pretty much from the middle of November through the first week of January. That's a typical moratorium we have, given the holiday busy period for a lot of our customers to essentially close out the year and not have any instability or anything introduced due to infrastructure upgrades. So we don't, and that applies to all solutions that touch Prisma Access. So that's why we typically don't do any upgrades. You wouldn't have seen any. The last time, and again, the naming convention, these are for our internal understanding. Is this which release are these features bucketed in? Since we are a cloud service, you typically will not see the release number, but this helps us let you know what versions you're seeing. And that's the way in which we can get feedback from you as well. The last time that I was on the series, I think I discussed the innovations or the changes we have brought about in our mobile user data that we were showing you. We made a lot of fundamental changes in how we were going to be able to display to you the users that are currently connected to Prisma Access by directly getting a snapshot of user sessions from the cloud hosted service. In addition to that, we had made changes in providing the number of users who were consuming an MU license anytime over the past 30 days. We showed you not only the number, but also the list of the users. We had made several changes to the way in which we were representing data on the map view for mobile users. So we discussed all of that. And that was in August of 2022. I last presented, I think, sometime in the September timeframe, talking about a few more changes since then. So we thought we would pick it up from releases that were done after my last presentation. And these are roughly starting from release 3.2 in the October timeframe. So going over what we added, and hopefully you've seen that already, but this is would be a recap of what we did. So please feel free to raise questions about your experience with these features. What we had added until then was the mobile users list and the users list page and all the details therein, as well as the map view. Additionally, we also added a page which had the devices of connected users. The difference between the mobile users list and the devices of connected users is that in the mobile users list, you see a connected user represented only once, irrespective of the device they are connected to Prisma Access with. As you know, we charge a license is consumed, an MU license is consumed based on a username. So irrespective of the number of devices that you have connected to Prisma Access, you still consume a single license. As well as, so that was a sort of premise for the mobile users list. A user was represented only once, irrespective of the number of devices. You could click on the user, and in the user details page, we would give you all the information on the selected time filter, and if during that time filter, the user was connected through multiple devices, how many times the user logged into Prisma Access during the time of interest. All of that was presented in the user details page. In the devices of connected users, we are presenting to you the view of all the devices that were connected to Prisma Access in the time filter of interest. What this means is that if you as a user were connected to Prisma Access through multiple devices, each of those devices would feature in the list of the devices with the username against it. So the key for this table is a device, and a user connected to device appears in the row and will appear in multiple rows if they have used multiple devices to connect to Prisma Access. Let me pause here and see if there are any questions that I need to address, but it's also possible that any of the so I see that, can you guys see my slides? I see there are some questions about, are you sharing something? I hope you're able to see my slides at this point.
Yep, we can see slides.
So there were some questions on it about slides. So I assume this was for the leading part when I hadn't yet switched to my slide view. Yep. So since there are no questions related to the content, I'll go ahead and proceed. So you're going to see here as many rows or as many entries into the table as there are devices that are connected to Prisma Access. So it's very likely that a user will appear in multiple rows if they have connected through multiple devices to Prisma Access. As usual, you can use our filter options to filter the data, and you can filter it based on the username. You can on the user location, the auth profile, device ID, device name, the OS, and a multitude of means of filtering the data. If you click on a user, we take you to the same page that you would go to from the mobile users list, where we show you all the devices that the user has connected to Prisma Access and the time filter of interest, and all the login events that have occurred on the various devices. At that point, back in October, I had told let our customers know that this list already still had pre-logon devices, and the pre-logon devices had not been filtered out. So you would likely to see multiple devices with the same username, pre-logon, that had been connected to Prisma Access. As you know, or you might know, that pre-logon state is when the user has not yet authenticated to GlobalProtect using their credentials, and the device has connected to Prisma Access with its machine cert. So all the users who have authenticated using the machine cert are represented as a pre-logon user, and the device name is represented with all the details. So even though there is a single user, you could likely see multiple device entries for that. However, as you know, a license is only charged based on each username. So even if we did not filter the pre-logon devices, this would lead to an addition of just a single username towards the license consumption, because all those pre-logon users from different devices still are represented as a single pre-logon user. However, it provides a bit of a cluttered view to in this table with multiple devices. So we went ahead and then filtered this pre-logon devices in a subsequent release. So that was the comment I had made out here. And in the user details page, as I indicated, you would go to, again, the same view that you would arrive at from the mobile users list. We showed you all the devices that the user had connected to Prisma Access in the time filter being considered, and all the events that occurred on these devices in the time filter of interest. We also show you the top locations with max login events from all devices. And this was essentially the core contents of release 3.2, which was very highly desired by a lot of you, since the usage earlier allowed this view from the main page. Following up in 3.2.1, which this was pretty much, I think, the last release we could do before the moratorium period. And what this release had was we added login, logout, and session durations to the user details page. So tease off right where we had left the previous release. We had the devices of connected users, but in the user details page, we added the login time, logout time, and the session duration for each device in that time frame. Now, if you didn't see a login time, the interpretation is that the session had started before this time filter of interest, so the session was still ongoing at the time that we decided to take the snapshot or view the list of users. If there was no logout time, then the understanding was that a login event had occurred, but the session was still continuing and had not terminated. And only in the case where you have both login and logout times would we indicate the session duration, because this was complete in that the session had started and ended in the time filter of interest, and we were able to indicate to you the duration of the session. We also changed the representation of the device table. Here we then focused pretty much on just the devices of the users, and we showed the number of times this device had been the number of devices that were connected to Prisma Access in the time frame of interest. So pretty much the same data, but nuances in how the data was being represented, and the specifics on logout time and session duration were added here. Any questions so far until 3.2.1? I don't think we added. Oh, yeah, I already said this. We filtered out the pre-logon users and devices from the connected users list and devices list here. And we introduced the bandwidth alerts for the site allocated bandwidth model that still a lot of our customers use. And we introduced these bandwidth alerts after making some logic changes for these alerts, simply because we wanted to be sure that these were representative of true bandwidth exceeding alerts and were not basically very short-lived instant wide events. So only if the bandwidth exceeded 90% of capacity for the tunnel for a period of 3 days, as we observed for a minimum of an hour, would we raise this alert. And likewise, if the bandwidth exceeded capacity, we would indicate this alert with high severity. So these were the two reworked logic for the bandwidth alerts that were introduced for the site allocation model. The aggregate bandwidth model, which we introduced back in 2.0, we roughly have about 50% of our customers in both models still. So that is an alert that will be introduced very soon. So a quick scan of Q&As just to see if, so there was a question on, can we create a customized threshold for bandwidth exceeding? These are going to be introduced this in Q2, where we are going to try, and I believe so, I need to check, but we are going to be introducing a whole new means of by which you view and consume alerts and incidents. We're going to be introducing incidents in sometime in Q2, and the goal is for us to be able to provide these in that framework. It may not be available right in Q2, but we are providing the framework wherein we can extend the ability to customize your thresholds for your bandwidths. So no, it won't be, it's not there right now, but we have created the plan to do so. So same questions for both. Customization is coming in, it's not there yet. So we did a release just very recently, which is, I believe, on Jan 27th. And these are in release, these are bucketed under release 322. And some of the main features in this release are indicated here. We have made a change in the way in which the mobile user licenses are considered across the different connect methods, specifically GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy. Earlier, if you recall, you needed to carve out a portion of your MU license towards usage by Explicit Proxy, and we would indicate the Explicit Proxy consumption against those a priori carved out MU licenses. That license, that is no longer required. The entire MU license can be used as desired across GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy, and we report an MU license consumption by looking at the usage across both GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy, and we do not double count users who have both used GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy. So in addition to not counting devices, multiple devices through which a user connects to Prisma Access, we also don't, as long as a user has connected to Prisma Access through either connect method, we count it as a license consumption usage. We don't count you separately for GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy. We introduced a new service connections details page. If you recall, in the previous version, we had all these service connections listed and their bandwidth usage and so forth. We never had the details for each of these service connections page. We have introduced that now. You have details for each service connection. So just like the remote network details page, we do have a service connection details page as well. We have introduced a new network services page on the left nav. Currently, it just has a count of your GlobalProtect authentications, successes or failures. And we're doing so based on feedback from customers. This is very helpful for them to understand if, for instance, a certain location, a certain set of users have not been able to authenticate, that is reflected in a large spike in their GlobalProtect authentication failures. It's possible to slice that data down by location and time. So it is a helpful tool to start your journey for troubleshooting as to what location had that issue. So we have brought that in. We have plans to add more of these common services in this page. So and these are services that are outside Prisma Access. So this is not something that we have the means to influence or change, but we record these and we have visibility to these, and these definitely impact the way in which our customers consume Prisma Access. So we can definitely see at the GlobalProtect portal when these authentication failures or successes come in, because We thereby send the details of the gateways to which a user can connect based on a successful authorization, successful authentication, and of course, if there's a failure, the user does not get that list. So we have visibility to it, although this occurs within the customer's domain. So we have this new network services page, and we intend to add more of these features to which we have visibility and which customers have requested us to provide view into. We have introduced also, based on customer request, the round trip time charts for remote networks, tunnels, as well as service connection tunnels. The round trip time definitely affects the customer experience for accessing Prisma Access. And as you know, round trip time is impacted through multiple factors, the largest of which is the propagation delay. So while there is processing delay, as well as encoding delay and so forth from the path from the user to Prisma Access, however, the propagation delay is the largest component of it. And we are able to show you the round trip time delay so that and some customers have told us that this is very helpful for them to address issues that might occur in the service delivery path that is controlled by their service providers. So the path from their branch to Prisma Access, which is through an ISP, if that has delays, that is something they can work with their service providers. So this is, again, a chart that is helpful to them. Typically, a service connection RTT is influenced also by the processing delays for the services that rest within the HQ. And these are, again, the services that the mobile users or remote networks need for authentication, for perhaps there's a DNS service running there, and delays in application access. If, for instance, the processes for these services are down in the HQ, there will be a delay involved, and it'll be reflected in the round trip time. So these charts have been introduced. I think there are some. Let me pause again and see if there were any questions for that. I don't see any, and perhaps some questions have been answered. Okay, so moving on. So let us see this. What is the MU license consolidation aspect? As I said, you do not need any longer to have a priori MU license pool allocations for Prisma Access, for explicit proxy connection method for getting the benefit of Prisma Access. We compute a license consumption based on unique users who have connected to Prisma Access using any connect method. So we are up-leveling the view of licensing in the overall top-level summary page, whereby we show your mobile users license, which is unique users, where the count is derived by adding unique users connected to Prisma Access through either GlobalProtect or Explicit Proxy. We, of course, show you the license expiration date as well. So now Explicit Proxy usage is expressed as a fraction of the total MU licenses procured, and no longer the pool of licenses that were carved out of the existing MU licenses. I indicated that we are providing you the service connections details page. And as you know, this is a page you might be used to, where we have on the left nav all the service connections, and we show you the status distribution, how many service connections are up, how many are down, the bandwidth computation over time through these service connections, and a list of these service connections. In addition, we have now introduced the ability to, say, click on a service connection and see the details for the service connection. So here I clicked on the Alvisafin HQ, and boom, what you get is essentially the service connection details page, which has a similar view as the remote network details page. There is a health, connectivity, and consumption cards. Additionally, we have introduced a round trip time, and you already had the bandwidth computation over time. So this bandwidth over time has been introduced within the same RTT chart so that you have a means of really quickly having the same hover effect by seeing what is happening with the round trip time and your bandwidth. So this is the per service connection details page that was introduced in the release. As I indicated, we have added a network services tab, and the network services tab today just shows GlobalProtect authentications, but we do have plans to show you, for instance, if we have visibility into the DNS service that you're running in your data center and within the customer's data center. And we have the visibility into DNS request sent, responses received. We will show you a count of that because that again directly affects your ability to access your SaaS applications. So the address resolution through DNS, if it doesn't occur or times out, it's reflected in your ability to go via Prisma access to those SaaS services. So we should be able to have visibility into that. We will reflect that as well as the user ID counts. User ID count is, as you know, the primary means by which Prisma Access uses as a key to record all your activities on Prisma Access. So it is a combination of your username and your IP address. This is redistributed across all the gateways and propagated throughout to all your throughout the tenant. So if there is a user ID redistribution issue reflected in a smaller number than what has been received earlier, that directly means that the redistribution isn't occurring and again is a helpful tool. So we will add these to the network services page in future. For now, we are showing you the authentication successes and failures that have occurred for the tenant in locations at the timestamp indicated. You have the ability to filter this data. So this is the authentication successes, and these timeframes are indicative of the fact that a whole bunch of users authenticated to Prisma Access via GlobalProtect at this time frame. So it looks like there is some really periodicity every day or within the week for how users were connecting. And a failure spike at some point is a useful spot to start your troubleshooting journey to understand which locations were affected and why something such might have occurred. So these are all features that we've been adding based on customer requests. And last feature to talk about is the fact that we've added round trip times. And typically, as you know, for a lot of our RNs or SCs, these are single tunnels. Or if you have two tunnels, one is the active tunnel, the other is a standby. We will only show you the round trip time over the active tunnel. And typically a round trip time is anywhere from, few tens of milliseconds, all the way up to hundreds of milliseconds. And larger the round trip time figure, the chance of your application experience being degraded is higher. So especially for RNs, it is very much indicative of your prop delay and something for you or a customer to really seek an understanding from their service provider. Over time, looking at these, the round trip delay, you can get a sense of whether this is fairly constant, what is typical for some of your sites, and some sites may be better connected than others, and it will be reflected in their round trip time. But this is a good means for you to understand why for instance, some branch users are not getting the application experience they so desire, and others are doing pretty well. So a useful tool for the SCs, as I indicated, an app server processing delay in the HQ DC will impact your round trip time. So as you know, for your mobile users to get to the private applications, say go through SCs, as well as you could be running DHCP, DNS type of services in the HQ. For a mobile user to get authenticated, they would have to traverse the SC to get into the data center. And if your app server is having for DHCP or DNS or any other service that is required for your users. If that is delayed, that will be shown in a round trip time component. Typically, the links from your HQ to Prisma Access are through very high-speed links. So we don't expect the prop delay to really be a significant contributor, although that, of course, is a component there. But here, the variable most likely is your app server processing delay. So these are helpful means for our customers to really proceed along their troubleshooting journey. And we've had requests from a lot of customers with larger deployments for Prisma Access to reflect these metrics that we have visibility into, which they run in their domain, which is not really a Prisma Access service. So these are the totality of all the features that we have released so far, with 3.2.2 being the latest that came in on January 27th. So let me pause here and see if there are any more questions on this that I can address. Otherwise, I can show you on the real Prisma Access demo tenant, where these are, so that you can get a good sense of it. I think the questions have been answered already. So I don't see any hands being raised, so I would presume that things are okay. So let me show you, just run through quickly on our Insights instance for our demo tenant as to where you will see these features. So again, this should be a very familiar view for Insights. So we start off with summary, our remote networks, mobile users, and the different connect methods. OQ guard is no longer present, but this is our demo instance. So unfortunately, it's not been fully updated as the customer instances are. We have service connections, Prisma Access locations, the new network services tab, and of course, the Prisma Access upgrade, where for the Canary upgrades, the involvement of customers is required to specify the location and time window when we can do these upgrades. So in the summary page, you're going to notice the change that is reflected for the consumption for mobile users. We are now providing the licensing view for MU consumption right here, where this count is derived by adding unique users connecting to Prisma Access with either GlobalProtect or Explicit Proxy. So the MU license count is now most updated on the summary page. Earlier, we were showing it both in GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy. So now you can see your GlobalProtect consumption you will continue to see that in the mobile users GlobalProtect page, as well as Explicit Proxy consumption and Explicit Proxy page. But we are showing you your mobile user license consumption by looking at unique users across both connect methods. And therefore, it's not just the addition of the user, the license view from GlobalProtect and Explicit Proxy, but at the back end, we are looking at users that might have connected through both, and we're filtering those users out so that you're not counted twice. In terms of the service connections, we have now, as I indicated, the service connection list page, and that the service connection details page, and that is reflected in your ability to really click on a service connection and go to those details. As you see here, we have two service connections, again, a demo tenant. So unfortunately, not the most fully featured, but you have the service connection name. And so you have the ability to click on it and go to the details. Here, unfortunately, we don't have the round trip time for this data center consumption, but this is gotten from a demo instance, and I'm not quite sure what was the issue with that. So if there was a round trip time recorded, it will be recorded here, and we give you the ability to see both of these along the same time instance. And as you can see, this is more granular. So the starting point is 170 kilobits per second. So it's going to give you a little bit more granular view than this view here, which of course gives you the same, but it's on a different scale, which can of course convert from the default log scale to the linear scale view. And finally, we are showing you the network services, which provides a view of authentication successes and failures for GlobalProtect. And here looks like we have 2 authentications that were recorded at 8:05 a.m. and then 2 that were also recorded, successes that were recorded on a different, I think are both US West, yes, both US West. So we are giving you a view of those. You have the ability to filter these from Prisma access location. So if I selected the US West, I would see, again, of course, the same view. If I, for instance, chose US Central, there would be nothing to see because no authentications have occurred there. Likewise, no failures have occurred, and therefore your view is there is nothing to show there. We have the same time filters. You can see in the last 7 days how many authentications have occurred, just like the view we provide to you for the whole. And you can see a lot more authentications are being recorded here. Now there are more sites to show you the locations, and you can filter this view based on these locations that are available. So that and of course, I think I did talk about the round trip time view. So these are all the features that we have added most recently. I did talk about the GlobalProtect devices of connected users. If I view this, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see 11 devices, and those 11 devices correspond to, if you look at the connected users list, you see that there are 9 connected users, but 11 devices with which they have connected. Clicking on any device in the mobile users list or on a user in the device list will take us to the same per user device page, whereby you're going to be able to see the login, logout events. So there was one user login and logout event. So you see the login time, logout time, and session duration for that device, which is indicated. So this session lasted for 10 hours, looks like, and essentially just one device was connected. Also, the user has been connected on, when was it, 7th Feb. This session occurred from this time to this time, so which is what is indicated out here. So with that, I would like to conclude the set of features we have introduced, but I would like to talk also about, is this the right page I'm at? Yes. So I just wanted to give you a quick glimpse of our forward direction, and especially for our SASE play. And SASE, as you know, is your Secure Access Service Edge, which is the means by which our customers can access both networking via Prisma SD-WAN, as well as the security services in Prisma Access at through the same portal. So we want to give a much more consolidated view of security service consumption and Prisma SD-WAN networking consumption. So we're making some very fundamental changes to the way in which all our visibility tools bring this data for you. And that is our forward path for Prisma SASE visibility. And this is bringing in the visibility for all our tools within the same context for our users. PA infrastructure, as you know, is seen through Prisma Access Insights. Prisma SD-WAN has the view for all the branch connectivity through Prisma SD-WAN. Application experience is brought in through the license for ADEM. And of course, security views are provided today in the activity tab of the integrated Prisma Access tab. We have insights and we have activity. So these are all, they provide you a sort of a siloed view while you might be a Prisma SASE customer. Our forward direction is in the Q2 timeframe of this calendar year to bring about a unified monitoring view for SASE. So we are getting rid of the siloed product-based approach, and we are bringing in a very usage-centric view. So if you have mobile users and these mobile users, and you also have, you're consuming essentially ADEM for mobile users, and the same users page, you will be able to see not only all the insights view of all the devices and the device statistics that we used to show you with GlobalProtect versions, with your OS and so forth. You will also be able to see the application experience score for your user through ADEM in that page. By clicking on the user, you will be able to go to an experience tab, which would be your familiar ADEM information, but you will also be able to see the details that you see today in your user details page for connectivity, which is from Insights. You will also be able to see all the threats that have been mitigated for this user in the same view. So we are bringing a more usage-centric holistic view where we are blurring the boundaries across these different products and bringing all the view in context to our users. So this is coming in the Q2 timeframe. So please stay tuned. We will do lots more outreach and education and training sessions to indicate the changes and how they will impact what you see from your Prisma Access visibility. So with that, I will end the session today. And I saw that there were no other questions, and let me turn it back to